going to get these eliminations and how they're going to get Flixie back into the game. The reboot ban, Taco is down there.
Still a massive advantage, though, for Vico and Veno having the high ground hold. A lot of Kira and FKS, Peter by Ritual Cold. They might just have to go head-to-head, but Cold, Peter by Ritual, they're a little bit on a scenic route here, Jacob. They don't seem like they're going to stick to the same strategy through each of these lobbies. It has to be on red alert. Even though it didn't pan out in their favor for game one, you can never count Peter Bot out.
Yep, it looks like for game number 2, they had some time to talk about it, but they went ahead and spin that wheel. They said, where do you want to go next? It looks like it could be possibly over towards Foxy Floodgates. We don't know the exact drop, but we know where they have their focus at. We tune on Kanata, Rapid, and Bolts, our game 1 Victory Royale winners. 9 eliminations. Really set the tone and the pace. And I was talking to Taco for game 1, saying this is a different vibe from Kanata, this major. This is a whole different feel during the Global Championship, and it's already showing up in game 1.
Touch on that a little bit later on. Right now, we've got Roxy, Pablo, Wingo, Gino. They found Yuma. They're looking to finish what Veno and Vico had started. Originally, Gino definitely getting the better end of that trade. Risei already down and out for the counter. Gino nearly falling, but a back-to-back knocks. Double eliminations, and Gino holding strong here. For Doxy, gonna find the final piece of the puzzle, and that's gonna be a clean sweep at Canyon Crossing.
And this is exactly what you need from Gino, Pablo, and for Doxy is it's almost impossible to guarantee you're gonna win 12 out of 12. They already lost game 1, so when you do win that off-spawn fight, you have to make each and every single one of those games count, and they're already making it sure that they get those eliminations, and they even take down some of the top teams in their path. They switch on over to high. Kind of business as usual as Mustache gets the down on the good There's too much distance, and you look at their loadout, they don't have crash pads, they don't have a lot of using together, so they're not going to be able to easily rotate on over to get the elimination.
Also an issue with Swizzy having just been freshly knocked. That's going to mean that Mustache is now on full-time responsibility, and then immediately straight back to trying to acquire additional surge from across the way. Oceana, though, definitely sending some presents back to to check up and see how well this fares, but the elimination feed definitely picking up and revisiting well. But Victor B's got 2 eliminations, and they're able to take care of this reboot, no problem, but still some additional attention.
Yeah, and it ain't kind of rightfully so. These guys are just playing out of their minds. Victor B deserves the biggest stage and the biggest round of applause. Honestly, I don't know where Pop is at in this building, but he has to be part of this loud crowd. And there's the second elimination on the Razo. They're making sure they know it doesn't matter, and they're cheering for this young individual.
Can't help but think part of the success that some of these teams are trying to claim, it does start with finding those early eliminations. Even a boost your confidence, but someone who was definitely swinging throughout that first lobby. Still, it's a difficult situation to tackle here. Kadu, Pisco, and Striker just continue trying to berate into these walls. They're not going to be able to break through the box just yet, but Salvo from overhead, alongside Arc, they're looking to try and make a separate angle approach. They've actually got Striker's trio a little bit trapped. And despite things looking slightly grim here for Arc and Salco, they've delayed it long enough. This might not be that appetizing a fight.
Yeah, and luckily for them, though, down below, they have control of a lot of pieces, so it's kind of going into enemy territory for Tisco, Kadu, and Striker. They have to be careful. The risk-reward scenario here, and they think they have a mismatch, but no, another team rolls up. Upbull, Focus, Mixin, and they get at least one of those eliminations on the Kadu. That's going to help. That's a breath of fresh air for Arc and Salco, because this distraction is allowing them to stay alive. As Mixin and Upbull, they clean up yet another elimination out here deep in the zone.
Dastardly there from Upbull, and a steep punish to boot. It's just a fresh reminder to every single one of these teams in the lobby, there is no such thing as a clean battle. If you can't find that quick time to elimination, it's something that so many of these veterans here on LAN, we're looking at a ton of major winners, right? Even across the international stage, but Watch getting busy. Rahito
Zero gonna be eliminated. And checking back now with Nixon, Upple, and Focus, they recognize there's still one more trio member. Granted, with those 2 eliminations, they're recognizing the fact that this is just an easy final piece if we want to take it, but it's not something they have to force.
Yeah, you gotta really be careful here too if you're Arc and Salco, because that team's just floating around. They don't necessarily know Arc and Salco are there, so they just have to be patient as can be and kind of hope they have enough Storm Surge to last these next couple of zones. They're not a team that'll build those towers. Arc and Salco is one that just kind of fight for their surge all across the western side of the map. The Walks being Malabuka, they have that 1 elimination so far, uncontested at outpost. But very, very similar to that last game, this zone is pulling all the way towards the north, so a lot of these teams have to think rather quickly.
But this is a very dangerous position that Ping is taken up. He's being fully collapsed on by the Middle East. Halad gonna find that initial knock onto Ping. Malabuka gonna be forced to try and possibly pull back from this position. FKS, Hero, and Halad just fully intervening.
Ouais, ils m'ont fini, du coup.
They're trying to get some surge across the way from Panzer and Yapko, but that option has just been reduced to nothing.
It's all about kind of waiting to see if it's worth it. They know at least 2 teams are fighting, but they may not know how many are still alive over on this side of the map. But Malabuka is using that opportunity. Even with his teammate down, he knows Storm Surge is a problem, and he has to worry about it every step of the game. Pablo, Chino for Doxy, they get another elimination. This time it was Visuals who have went down, and honestly, this is like we're 8 points. If we have any shot of getting a top 10 in this tournament, we have to pick up the pace, and that they shall do.
This is so reminiscent of how they handled their Major 3 performance in EU. They were scrappy, they were aggressive, and they were successful for it. And right now, when you're staring at a team, oh, hold that thought though, Chino taken out of the sky. That's the dangers involved with this Flowberry Fizz, and the Crash Pad still has Pablo and Prodoxy to immediately back him up with that double revive, but there's definitely trouble in the horizon. Teams immediately trying to key them, seeing that that knock was successful.
Yeah, just kind of an opportune moment. They just chop out the... I feel like I've seen this more and more and more. They just take that opportunity, catching them slipping, maybe even asleep, and they just end that fight rather quickly. But it was Agers, Acorn, and Poyo that actually did get that knock. It does look like they were trying to rotate in that direction, but they rather quickly to get the revive. No worries there. Malabuka walks. No ping still in sight. There's so many teams here on the southern portion of the map, including Hero, Halad, and FKS. And Alex's team even beginning to rotate over along with Anon and Resigns. This southern portion of the map is looking rather busy.
Oshie has just decided, hey, we are so far south, but we need to get surged somehow. So for them to push forward, they might have taken notice of what was taking place inside of that elimination feed. A slightly different tempo though for Marius, Vanya, and Pixie. Just content, farm things out a little bit at OXR headquarters. Spot King off in his own surge base. Decent ways away though. So all this plethora of heals and loot and easy rotations, but surprisingly enough, Arc might have just been able to clutch up big time for himself and Salco.
Yeah, I feel like that's almost an understatement. They tried to get the reboot back on the school. He went down again. It's almost no loss because they were able to pick up a huge elimination. It's Malabuka getting a knock on to Nam, but we're going to jump on board Cooper, Reed, and Curly. They were the ones kind of admitting, hey, for us to get Storm Surge, for us to get that damage, it's going to be a challenge. But now you can see what's landing right next to him. A huge drop, a huge upgrade. And that's something a team like this feeling confident once they get it.
Salco and Arc still trying to fight things out here. A big knock onto Uppo, but Focus from overhead. He's going to bring down Salco. It's all down to Focus versus Arc. Focus definitely having the HP advantage currently, but he's going to go for the full finish here onto Salco. That Siphon immediately extending his leverage here. Arc scrambling underneath him, trying to see if he can replenish just a little bit of his shields to boot. But Arc, he's got to make a decision. He's got to make it quick. He's trying to see if he can get this right angle peek. Instead, stuck underneath these pre-existing builds. Focus going to create a little bit of space here. Focus off the right biz, trying to get the overhead approach, and Arc is still looking to take this fight. He's not backing down. You have to respect the guts to go for it. And Focus still struggling to clean things up. Arc might just be able to turn it, but Arc, he doesn't have a lot of HP. He has to reload. He's not going to be able to win it. He had the opportunity, Jacob, if he just had one more shot.
Very, very unfortunate circumstances for Arc. He ran out of white heals, no bandages, no med kits, those slurp juices. He had to be aggressive, but that played directly into Focus's hands, and he capitalized on it perfectly. Even though they're out of zone, Taco, I expect their full trio to be back into this game rather shortly. The fourth zone, still relatively early on in this game, but 6 eliminations for Halad, FKS, and Hero. Seeing how they're picking up some of those eliminations. It's Walks, he gets caught slipping, clothesline. Shut down rather easy. Malabuka as well. No knock on the Malabuka, which means they're out of this game.
We knew it was going to be difficult, though, for Malabuka's team to have a recovery point. They got so locked down at Outpost Enclave, but this is wicked work by Pablo, Chino, and Ferdoxy, just slowly making the Ferdoxy crouch approach. He's been notorious for this method over the course of this past year, and now, currently, it could be the surprise that Peterbot does not want to have to deal with Orgold and Ritual. But Pablo, Chino, Ferdoxy, the patience, the discipline, they know exactly when they want to strike. They could possibly even be looking to try and tackle a couple other teams nearby.
Yeah, just kind of double options. Wait for zone. But if somebody kind of gets a little bit too ahead of themselves, that could be an opportunity as Peterbot shutting down Resigns. And again, no knock. So the #1 team from OCE is out of the lobby in game number 2 as Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual looks to ramp things up. But Pixstar and Demas, underdog story the entire year. And this is something, I love the underdog story. And everybody, so many people were putting this team in the top 10, maybe even some inside of the top 5. Yesterday, we were watching their games. They were kind of having fun with some sky bases, but now is the time to really put it all to the test. Zone favoring their side of the map. They just had to travel up a little bit towards the north, but now they got a position ahead of everybody team towards the south. This is a good chance for them to start to accumulate surge.
Their low ground fragging potential has been what's really struck them into the spotlight from EU, but you can't help but think about the fact that even in that first lobby, I know Sven has been cooking up some strats with his Polish boys, because we saw Pixstar and Demas attempting to maintain height at one point. Curious if they tried to do that same sort of mentality in the secondary lobby. Hype was definitely a little bit scrappy last game, but King, Phaser, and OPA's in a little bit of trouble here, but they know Focus is in even more trouble. They want to see if they can maybe isolate that solo, keep him pinpointed, keep him away from their position. PHZN is going to need a bailout soon, though.
Yeah, this is a scary situation for the entire trio, for that matter. Finally, they find some heals, but I was just thinking 177 above the damage threshold. It is above the damage threshold, but it is not a ton. Things can change rather quickly, especially you see Murstache, you see Swizzy, Queasy on the other side of the mountain in the zone, pushing further and further towards the northeast. And this is where in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, on that side of the map, Taco, there's mountain ranges, there's dips, there's dives, there's so many different things in terms of elevation. Teams better be prepared.
And look, game 1 definitely did not pan out the way that Acorn, Pollo, and Agers would have normally anticipated, or anybody honestly in this audience would have expected them to do. But with so much surge damage already online, Jacob, this dead side rotate is absolutely perfect. They don't have to worry about encountering any of the clusters that might be starting to build on the edge of zone. The real thing that they're going to have to be very, very cautious of is just not getting beamed from the sky.
Yeah, they're going to be rotating to a lot of teams for that matter. So that's why they're trying to use that new upgraded launch pad. You mix in the Flowberry Fizz, and you tend to kind of get out of render distance for some teams, and you kind of get a free rotation in. It all depends on who's kind of looking up at a moment. And now we're seeing a peak with Kanata, Rapid, and Bolts of what that southern side of the zone actually looks like. This is what Agers, Acorn, and Pollo are actually rotating into. So for Kanata, Rapid, and Bolts, they already won game number 1, 9 eliminations. For them, I think it's kind of like slow and steady wins the race. They're not going to get greedy for eliminations. They're going to let them naturally present themselves throughout the course of this game.
love to see some of these elevation shifts, though. It really challenges some of these IGLs finding the most optimal path for their teammates. Swizzy, Queasy, Mustache, not gonna get too tagged up here by Iyamzo, Higgs, and Clicks. A bit of a missed opportunity. Victor V, though, that's gonna finally be a connection there from Iyamzo, the future, trying to see if he can pop off here, but it's gonna be tough. They don't want to forfeit their position right now, Jacob, to try and key against Victor V, Epic, and Paper. They're just gonna let them continue to tunnel through towards that side of the mountain phase. Kazi and Aspic, though, stuck. Prodoxy, Pablo, Gino. They're not gonna let these guys go.
Bro, they got the exotic slapberry fish.
No!
They got slurp juices. They got splashes. I know you start to think a little scared, like how much do they have to stay this deep in the zone? It is going to be a 2-tick, but they have more than enough and 2 potential eliminations, which will grant them Siphon. Save those heals even more. As Prodoxy doing his lurk. Patented lurk here coming out.